Hello, family. Welcome to Stories with Kelly Stories. Please subscribe and leave a like for us. It means the world to us. Also, share this video to your friends and loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you. As you do so, sit back and relax as we dive into the story. Emma's life was the embodiment of perfection. Her husband, James, was every woman's dream, a successful businessman who always made time for her, showering her with love and affection. Their home was warm, filled with laughter, and decorated with memories they had built together. From spontaneous romantic dinners to surprise weekend getaways, James made her feel cherished. Their love seemed unbreakable, like a fairy tale brought to life. Emma often caught herself smiling at how blessed she was. She couldn't imagine a life more perfect. "I must be the luckiest woman in the world," she whispered one evening, watching James playfully chase their dog around the garden. Yet, amidst all this joy, a faint shadow lingered in her heart, a tiny whisper of doubt she quickly dismissed. She trusted James wholeheartedly. They had built their lives on honesty and love. Every anniversary, he'd remind her, "You're my world, Emma. Nothing matters more." And she believed him because his actions matched his words. Or so she thought. As she sat flipping through their wedding album, she marveled at how lucky she was to have found her soulmate. Unbeknownst to her, the perfect delusion she held so dear was on the verge of crumbling into pieces. Gradually, Emma began noticing subtle changes in James's behavior. He was always on his phone, texting late into the night, his laughter softer, more private. Whenever she asked who he was chatting with, his answers were vague. "Just work stuff, love. You wouldn't want to be bored with all the details," he'd say with a casual smile. But it wasn't just the phone. He was staying out later, often blaming late meetings or impromptu business trips. Once attentive and affectionate, James had become distant, his touches fleeting, his kisses mechanical. Emma could feel him slipping away, yet she couldn't pinpoint why. Doubt gnawed at her, but she pushed it aside, refusing to let insecurity ruin her marriage. She tried to rationalize it. Work was demanding, and James was a dedicated man. "It's just a phase," she told herself, gripping the edges of her pillow tighter at night, longing for the warmth of his arms. But even as she convinced herself, a cold emptiness settled in her chest. Emma was no fool. She could sense the growing void between them. She just didn't want to believe the worst. Yet her heart whispered what her mind refused to accept. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. It was a seemingly ordinary Saturday afternoon when the first seed of doubt took root. Emma was at the mall, aimlessly browsing through baby clothes for her niece. She was about to check out when she heard a child's laughter, a joyous, infectious sound that drew her attention. She turned to see a little boy, no older than 5, running playfully toward a woman who looked vaguely familiar. But it wasn't the woman who held her gaze. It was the boy. He had the same curly hair as James, the same dimpled smile, even the same playful glint in his eyes. For a second, Emma's heart stopped. The resemblance was uncanny, but she brushed it off as her mind playing tricks on her. "Kids look alike all the time," she murmured, shaking her head. But as she continued to watch the boy, an unsettling feeling crept into her chest. He ran towards the woman, laughing. "Mommy, Mommy!" The woman scooped him up, her face lighting up with joy. Emma forced herself to look away, clutching her shopping bag tightly. But as she walked out of the mall, the boy's laughter echoed in her ears, and a nagging thought lingered. Who was that child, and why did he look so familiar? James's behavior grew more secretive after that day. He began guarding his phone as if his life depended on it. He'd take calls in the bathroom, whispering in hushed tones. Once, Emma caught a glimpse of a message notification, but James snatched his phone away before she could read it. "It's just work stuff," he explained, his eyes avoiding hers. But the more he tried to hide, the more Emma grew suspicious. Then, one evening, while cleaning his car, she found a small toy truck under the passenger seat. Her heart skipped a beat. "James, whose toy is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. He barely glanced at it, his face unreadable. "Oh, that? It's for a colleague's kid. I must have forgotten to give it to him," he replied, brushing off her concern. But Emma's gut churned. Why would he be buying toys for a colleague's child, and why hide it? She wanted to believe him, but the pieces weren't fitting together. Every smile, every touch now felt rehearsed. The warmth of their marriage was slipping through her fingers, replaced by a cold uncertainty that refused to leave. Something was wrong, and Emma could feel it tightening its grip around her heart. The unanswered questions gnawed at Emma day and night. Unable to shake off her suspicions, she decided to dig deeper. Late one night, while James was asleep, she tiptoed to his side of the bed and picked up his phone. Her hands trembling, she knew his password. They never kept secrets, at least she never did. But as she scrolled through his messages and call logs, she found nothing unusual. It was too clean, almost as if it had been deliberately wiped. Her heart sank and guilt washed over her. "What am I doing?" she whispered, feeling ashamed of her distrust. But the unanswered questions wouldn't leave her alone. She began checking his social media, but his posts were the same as always. Business meetings, motivational quotes, nothing out of the ordinary. Yet the man in those pictures didn't match the man she shared a bed with every night. Desperate for answers, Emma considered hiring a private investigator, but immediately dismissed the thought, not wanting to cross that line. But with every passing day, James grew more distant, and the once beautiful love they shared felt like an elaborate lie. She needed the truth, even if it shattered her heart. Days turned into weeks, and Emma couldn't get the image of the little boy out of her mind. She convinced herself that she was overthinking until she saw him again, this time at the park. He was playing on the swings, his laughter filling the air, the same curls, the same dimpled smile her breath hitched as she watched him run towards the woman she recognized from the mall. But this time James was there too, kneeling to embrace the child with a warmth that shattered Emma's heart. She watched in stunned silence, unable to move or breathe. Time stood still as she watched them, her mind refusing to process the scene before her. She wanted to scream, to confront him, but her feet were glued to the ground. Her husband, her James, was playing happy family with another woman and child, a child who looked exactly like him. Tears blurred her vision as she stumbled away, her world crumbling with every step. Her heart shattered, and the once perfect illusion of her marriage was now nothing but broken glass cutting deep into her soul. She knew she had to confront him, but first she needed to breathe. Emma sat on her bed, the weight of the truth pressing down on her chest like a boulder. Her mind replayed the scene at the park over and over again. The way James's face lit up when he hugged the boy, the tenderness in his eyes as he kissed the woman on her cheek. A knot tightened in her stomach, making it hard to breathe. She buried her face in her hands, muffling the sobs that broke free. Her heart was shattered, torn between love and betrayal. How could the man she loved, the man who promised her forever, be living a double life? She wanted to scream, to lash out, to confront him, but fear held her back. What if he denied it? What if he walked away, leaving her broken and alone? She needed to talk to someone before she did anything rash. Desperate for comfort, Emma called Linda. Her voice trembled as she recounted everything she had seen. The little boy who looked just like James, the way he played father so effortlessly with another family. "I feel like I'm going crazy, Linda. What did I do wrong?" she choked out, her voice breaking. Linda was silent for a moment before speaking softly. "Emma, this isn't your fault. You did nothing to deserve this, but you need to confront him. You deserve the truth." Emma's chest tightened at the thought of confronting James. She wanted answers, but she was terrified of the pain that would come with them. "I don't know if I can face him, Linda. What if he chooses them over me?" Linda's voice was firm. "Then you'll know the truth, and you can start healing. You deserve to know, Emma." Emma knew she was right, but fear and love warred within her. She had to confront him, but she wasn't ready for her world to fall apart. Not yet. Yet, unable to let go of the haunting images, Emma decided to follow James after work. She sat in her car, heart racing as she watched him leave his office. Every nerve in her body screamed at her to stop, to go home and pretend everything was fine. But she couldn't. She needed to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. She tailed him from a distance, her palms sweating against the steering wheel. James drove to a quiet neighborhood far from their home. Emma's heart pounded as he parked in front of a modest house. Her stomach twisted when...
"We'll take it one step at a time." Together, she stayed with Emma the entire day, making her eat, holding her when she broke down, and listening as she poured out her heart. Clara's presence was the only thing keeping Emma from falling apart completely. In her darkest hour, Clara was her lifeline, a reminder that she wasn't truly alone. A week later, Emma's worst nightmare became public knowledge. Someone leaked the scandal, and gossip spread like wildfire. Her phone was flooded with messages, some sympathetic, others dripping with judgment and curiosity. Everywhere she went, people stared, their whispers following her like shadows. At the grocery store, she heard a woman sneer, "That's her, the woman who didn't even know her husband had another family." Pathetic. Emma's face burned with humiliation, her eyes stinging with tears. She felt exposed, vulnerable, like her life was on display for the world to judge. She rushed out of the store, her heart pounding with shame and anger. It wasn't just James's betrayal that hurt, it was the humiliation of being the last to know. Back home, Emma threw her phone against the wall, her frustration boiling over. "Why is this happening to me? Why am I the one being judged?" she cried, her voice echoing through the empty house. The phone shattered, much like her life, but the pain didn't ease. She sank to the floor, her hands covering her face as sobs racked her body. Moments later, Jaden stormed through the front door, his face twisted with anger. "I saw the news." "Are you okay?" he demanded, his eyes blazing with protective fury. Emma shook her head, her voice trembling. "They're all laughing at me, Jaden. They're judging me for his mistakes." Jaden's jaw tightened, his fists clenched. "You have nothing to be ashamed of. He's the liar. He's the one who betrayed you, not the other way around." He wrapped his arms around her, his anger softening into compassion. "You don't have to face this alone. I've got your back." Emma, always for the first time since her world fell apart, Emma felt a spark of hope. She wasn't alone, not as long as she had Jaden and Clara by her side. Emma couldn't live with the unanswered questions gnawing at her heart. She needed closure, needed to understand how James could betray her so deeply. She called him, her voice steady and cold. "We need to talk now." There was no warmth in her tone, no room for excuses. James agreed, his voice heavy with resignation. They met at a quiet cafe, the same one they used to visit on lazy Sunday afternoons, but the familiarity was tainted now, replaced by a suffocating tension. Emma looked at him, the man she once loved with all her heart, and saw a stranger. "Why?" she demanded, her voice breaking. "Why did you do this to me, to us?" James's shoulders sagged, his eyes filled with remorse. "I didn't plan for this to happen. I was stupid, selfish. I never meant to hurt you, Emma." But his words felt empty, devoid of meaning. Emma's jaw clenched, her eyes burning with anger. "You didn't mean to hurt me. You lived a double life for 6 years, James. You played husband and father to 2 families and thought you could get away with it." Her voice was sharp, laced with bitterness. James looked down, shame coloring his cheeks. "I was weak. I wanted to do the right thing, but I didn't want to lose you. I didn't know how to let go of either of you." Emma's heart twisted, the pain so raw she could barely breathe. You didn't know how to let go, so you lied, manipulated, and shattered my life instead. Her voice cracked, tears spilling over. I loved you. I gave you everything, and you repaid me with betrayal. James's face fell, his own eyes glistening. I know. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know that I did love you. I still do, but his love meant nothing now. It was too late, far too late. The days that followed were agonizing for Emma. Her mind was a chaotic mess, torn between love and betrayal. Memories of the man she once loved battled with the harsh reality of his deception. She would find herself smiling at the thought of their first date, only to be hit with the gut-wrenching reminder that he had been lying to her all along. Her nights were sleepless, haunted by images of James with his other family. She was drowning in pain, struggling to breathe under the weight of her broken heart. How do you move on from something like this? She asked Clara one evening, her voice hollow. Clara looked at her, eyes full of compassion. You move on by choosing yourself, Emma, by choosing your peace and healing. But how could she choose herself when her heart was still chained to him? Emma knew she had to make a decision. She couldn't keep living in limbo, trapped between the past and an uncertain future. She needed to decide whether to forgive James and try to rebuild what was broken or to walk away and start over. It felt impossible. She still loved him, despite everything, but she could never trust him again. How could she look at him without seeing his lies, without feeling the sting of betrayal? One evening, she sat alone in their bedroom, surrounded by memories that now felt like cruel reminders of a love that never truly existed. She stared at her wedding ring, the symbol of a promise that had been shattered beyond repair. Her chest tightened, her heart breaking all over again. Taking a deep breath, she slid the ring off her finger, feeling its weight lift. I choose me, she whispered, her voice firm. It was the hardest decision she ever made, but it was the only way she could begin to heal. Emma filed for divorce the next day. It felt surreal, standing in the lawyer's office, signing papers that would end the life she had built with James. Her hands trembled, but she kept her chin high, refusing to let herself fall apart again. The lawyer looked at her sympathetically, his voice gentle. Are you sure about this? She turned on her heels, refusing to let him see her cry. The courtroom was a blur of legal jargon, paperwork, and signatures that severed the ties that once bound them together. As she signed the last page, her hands trembled, the weight of her decision pressing down on her chest. She felt a hollow ache. No, this was the end of everything they once were. Outside the courthouse, James caught up with her, his eyes pleading. Emma, please, can't we at least talk? She looked at him, the man she once loved, and felt an overwhelming sense of loss, but beneath the pain was a growing strength. Talk about what, James? How you built our life on lies. How you played father to a child I never knew about. Her voice was cold, but her eyes were filled with tears. James's face fell, his guilt raw and exposed. I never wanted to hurt you. I was a coward, trying to live two lives, but I loved you, Emma. I still do. Her heart twisted, but she refused to let his words break her again. Love isn't enough, not when it's built on deceit. She walked away, her heart breaking with every step. She didn't look back, even when she heard his voice crack with emotion. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but sorry wasn't enough. It never would be. The days following the divorce were filled with an aching emptiness that clung to Emma like a shadow. The house felt cold, hollow, every room echoing with memories of a life that no longer existed. She found herself standing in the doorway of their bedroom, her eyes lingering on the empty side of the bed. Her heart ached, the silence suffocating. She missed his laughter, his touch, the way he made her feel safe, but those memories were tainted now, poisoned by his betrayal. She wiped away a tear, forcing herself to move forward. She gathered his things, packing them into boxes with trembling hands. Each item was a reminder of the man she thought she knew, the man who had shattered her heart. It was painful, gut-wrenching, but necessary. She needed to reclaim her space, her life, her peace. Clara and Jaden helped her through the difficult days, their unwavering support her only lifeline. You're stronger than you think, Emma, Jaden reminded her, his voice filled with conviction. You'll get through this. Clara was her constant companion, sleeping over when the nights felt too long and the silence too loud. You're not alone, Clara whispered one night as Emma cried herself to sleep. We're here. We've got you. Emma leaned on them, drawing strength from their love. She started small, going back to work, meeting friends, and slowly rebuilding her routine, but the pain was always there, lurking beneath the surface. She struggled with loneliness, waking up to an empty house, eating dinner by herself. It hurt, but she refused to let it break her. Every day was a battle, but she fought through it, determined to heal. She wasn't whole yet, but she was trying, and that was enough for now. Weeks turned into months, and Emma slowly learned how to live again. She poured herself into her work, taking on new projects and challenging herself to grow. The busier she was, the less time she had to think about James, to mourn the life she lost. She found solace in productivity, reclaiming her identity outside of her broken marriage. One evening, she stood in front of her mirror, studying the woman staring back at her. She looked different, stronger, fiercer. There was a glimmer of resilience in her eyes, a spark of determination. She was no longer the broken woman who had crumbled on her living room floor. She was rising from the ashes, piece by piece, day by day. You're going to be okay, she whispered to her reflection, her voice steadying. It was the first time she truly believed it. Emma began exploring new hobbies, rediscovering passions she had long forgotten. She took up painting, letting the colors speak the words her heart couldn't say. She went hiking, breathing in the fresh air, letting nature heal her soul. She surrounded herself with positive people, cutting out toxic influences that drained her energy. One afternoon, Clara watched her laugh over coffee, her eyes sparkling with hope. It's good to see you smile again, Clara said, her voice warm with affection. Emma's smile faltered, her eyes glistening. I never thought I'd be okay without him, but I'm learning to be. Clara squeezed her hand, her heart swelling with pride. You're stronger than you realize, Emma. I didn't think I could do this, but here I am, she admitted, her voice trembling. Clara hugged her tightly, whispering, you did more than just survive. You rose above it. Emma looked around the room, the applause echoing in her ears, and realized that she was no longer the victim of James's lies. She was a warrior who had faced the worst and come out stronger. For the first time in a long time, she was proud of herself, and she knew she was going to be okay. One afternoon, Emma received an unexpected call from Sophie. Her heart skipped a beat, memories of their last conversation flooding her mind. Silence hung between them, heavy and raw, but in that moment, they found solace in each other's pain, two women bound by betrayal, finding healing in unexpected friendship. It didn't erase the hurt, but it made the burden a little lighter. Determined to heal, Emma began therapy, confronting the emotional wounds that haunted her. It was terrifying at first, peeling back the layers of pain and vulnerability she had hidden away. She sat on the therapist's couch, her hands twisting nervously as she spoke about the betrayal, the humiliation, and the loss of her identity. I feel like I don't know who I am anymore. Everything I believed in was a lie, she confessed, her voice breaking. The therapist listened patiently, her eyes kind and understanding. You're not defined by his actions, Emma. You are more than his betrayal. It's okay to grieve, to feel broken, but you are not shattered. You're healing, and that takes strength. The words resonated deeply, sparking a glimmer of hope in Emma's heart. She had lost herself in the pain, but she was determined to find herself again. Emma faced her fears head-on, confronting the emotions she had buried. She wrote letters to James that she never sent, pouring out her anger, her hurt, and her confusion. She learned to forgive herself for loving him, for trusting him, and for breaking when he betrayed her. Slowly, she began to let go of the resentment that weighed her down. One evening, she stood by the riverbank, her letters clutched in her hands. With tears streaming down her face, she released them into the water, watching as they floated away. It was a symbolic goodbye, a way of releasing the past. She felt lighter, a weight lifting off her shoulders as the sun set, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. Emma closed her eyes and whispered, "I forgive you, James, not for your sake, but for mine." It was the first step toward healing, toward reclaiming her peace. She was finally letting go, piece by piece, breath by breath. Emma was not looking for love. Her heart was still tender, healing from the wounds James had left behind, but life had a way of surprising her when she least expected it. She met Jeremy at a charity event Clara dragged her to, insisting she needed to get out and socialize again. He was charming, with a warm smile that reached his eyes and a laughter that felt genuine. They bumped into each other at the refreshment table, quite literally, and she spilled her drink on his shirt. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she gasped, mortified. Jeremy laughed, his eyes sparkling. "No worries. I needed an excuse to buy a new shirt anyway." His humor was disarming, his presence calming. They spent the evening talking, sharing stories and laughter that felt light, easy, and unforced. Emma found herself smiling in a way she hadn't in a long time, but the spark scared her. It was too soon, too fragile. As they exchanged numbers, she hesitated, her heart conflicted. Could she open herself up again? Could she trust someone after everything she had been through? Clara teased her mercilessly the next day, her eyes twinkling with excitement. "Emma's got a crush," she sang, wiggling her eyebrows. Emma blushed, swatting Clara's arm. "It's not like that. He was nice, that's all." But even as she said it, she felt a flutter in her chest, a whisper of hope. She tried to push it away, tried to remind herself of the pain she had endured, but Jeremy's smile lingered in her mind, his laughter echoing in her heart. She wasn't ready to fall again, but maybe, just maybe, she was ready to hope. Emma's journey with Jeremy was slow, cautious. She kept her walls up, her heart guarded, terrified of getting hurt again, but Jeremy was patient, never pushing, never rushing. He respected her pace, understanding the delicate process of healing. They spent time together, going on simple dates, coffee shops, walks in the park, late-night phone calls filled with laughter. Jeremy was gentle, kind, never demanding more than she could give. It was a friendship that grew naturally, evolving into something more, something beautiful, but Emma struggled with her fears, her insecurities. One evening, they sat on a park bench, watching the sunset paint the sky. Jeremy looked at her, his eyes soft. "I care about you, Emma, but I won't rush you. I'll wait as long as you need." Emma's heart ached, tears filling her eyes. "I'm scared," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm scared of getting hurt again." Jeremy took her hand, his grip firm and steady. "I know, and I can't promise that life won't throw curveballs our way, but I can promise that I'll always be honest with you, no lies, no secrets, just us, taking it one step at a time." His words were a balm to her wounded heart, easing the pain she still carried. Emma looked at him, truly looked at him, and saw a man who was willing to fight for her, to protect her heart. It terrified her, but it also gave her hope. She squeezed his hand, her voice barely above a whisper, "Okay, let's take it slow." Jeremy's face lit up with a smile, his eyes shining with affection. "Slow it is," he agreed, his voice warm. They sat there, watching the sun dip below the horizon, their fingers intertwined. It was a new beginning, a chance to move forward. Emma didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she was willing to find out. Emma thought she was done with James. She thought she had moved on, left the past behind, but closure was a complicated thing, and when James called, his voice raw and pleading, she knew she needed to see him one last time. They met at the same cafe where she had confronted him months before, the memories haunting her as she took a seat. James looked different. Tired, defeated. His face was hollow, his eyes filled with regret. "Thank you for coming," he began, his voice heavy with emotion. "I wasn't sure if you'd even want to see me." Emma kept her expression neutral, her heart steady. "I'm here because I need answers, James. I need to understand why." James looked down, his shoulders slumping. "I was a coward. I didn't want to lose you, but I couldn't walk away from Sophie either. I thought I could keep both worlds separate, that no one would get hurt." His words stung, reopening old wounds. Emma's eyes filled with tears, her voice breaking. You destroyed me, James. You shattered everything I believed in. I trusted you. I loved you. James's face crumpled, his eyes brimming with tears. I know, and I hate myself for it every day. I lost everything, Emma. I lost you. I lost our life together, and I only have myself to blame. His voice cracked, his pain raw and real. Emma looked at him, seeing the man she once loved, the man who had broken her heart. I needed to hear this, she whispered, her voice steady. I needed to know that you regret what you did, but that doesn't change anything. I can't forgive you, James. I can't go back to who I was before. James's face fell, his hope crumbling. I understand, he murmured, his shoulders sagging. I'm sorry, Emma. I truly am. Emma stood, her heart heavy but resolute. Goodbye, James, and as she walked away, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She finally had the closure she needed. She was free. In the weeks following her final conversation with James, Emma felt a strange sense of liberation. It was as if releasing him from her heart also released the pain she had been carrying, but the scars were still there, and she knew the only way to truly heal was through forgiveness, not for James's sake, but for her own peace. It was a difficult journey, one that required her to confront her pain, her anger, and her grief. She sat in therapy, her hands trembling as she admitted, I hate him for what he did, but I hate the hold he still has on me even more. Her therapist nodded, her voice gentle. Forgiveness isn't about excusing his actions, Emma. It's about freeing yourself from his control. It's about choosing peace over pain. Those words resonated deeply, sparking a desire in Emma to finally let go. One evening, she stood at the riverbank where she had once released her letters of anger. This time, she held a single note, the words simple but powerful. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. She closed her eyes, her heart pounding as she whispered, I forgive you, James. I forgive you for the lies, for the betrayal, for breaking me, but most importantly, I forgive myself for loving you, for trusting you, and for breaking when you shattered my world. Tears streamed down her face as she released the note into the water, watching it float away with the current. A weight lifted from her chest, her body trembling with relief. It was painful, but it was freeing. She was no longer defined by his betrayal. She was no longer his victim. She was Emma, strong, resilient, and whole, and she was finally at peace. With forgiveness came healing, and with healing came the courage to embrace happiness again. Emma's relationship with Jeremy continued to blossom, grounded in honesty and mutual respect. They spent more time together, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. One evening, as they walked along the beach, Jeremy took her hand, his voice gentle. I love you, Emma. I've loved you since the first time you spilled that drink on me. Emma laughed, her heart fluttering with joy. It was the first time she truly allowed herself to feel love again without fear or hesitation. She looked up at him, her eyes shining. I love you too, Jeremy. Thank you for being patient, for waiting for me to heal. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her close as he whispered, I'd wait a lifetime for you. It was simple, honest, and real. For the first time, Emma felt safe in love. They built new memories together, ones untainted by pain or betrayal. Jeremy became her confidant, her partner, her safe haven. He supported her dreams, encouraged her ambitions, and loved her unconditionally. Clara and Jaden watched in awe as Emma's smile returned, brighter and more genuine than ever before. You're glowing, Clara teased, her eyes twinkling with happiness. Emma blushed, her heart full. I never thought I could be this happy again, she admitted, but she was. She was happy, loved, and finally free from her past. One evening, Jeremy took her to her favorite restaurant, his eyes nervous and his hands fidgety. As they finished dessert, he pulled out a small box, his voice shaking. Emma, will you marry me? Emma's heart stopped, tears filling her eyes. She looked at him, the man who helped her heal, who showed her that love could be pure and honest. Her voice trembled as she whispered, yes, 1,000 times yes. As he slipped the ring on her finger, she realized that this was her second chance at love, at happiness, and she was ready to embrace it with her whole heart. Emma stood at the altar, her hands intertwined with Jeremy's, her heart racing with excitement and joy. The sun was shining, the breeze gentle, and the air filled with laughter and love. Clara stood by her side, her maid of honor, tears of happiness streaming down her face. Jaden was grinning like a fool, his pride palpable as he gave his sister away. Emma's eyes locked with Jeremy's, his love reflecting in his gaze. "I vow to stand by you, to support your dreams, and to love you unconditionally, just as you've loved me," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Jeremy's eyes glistened, his smile tender as he replied, "And I vow to protect your heart, to cherish your soul, and to make you laugh every single day." Their vows were simple, honest, and real. Unlike the lies she once believed, this love was different, it was true. As they exchanged rings and sealed their vows with a kiss, applause erupted around them, joy filling the air. Emma looked around, her heart swelling with gratitude. She saw Clara wiping her tears, Jaden cheering, and even Sophie standing at the back, smiling softly. In letting go of the past, we find the courage to embrace new beginnings and rediscover the joy we deserve. This moral encapsulates Emma's journey of healing, resilience, and the power of forgiveness, not just for others, but for herself. It highlights the importance of choosing love, happiness, and peace despite life's deepest betrayals. That's the end of the story. What did you learn from this story? Drop your thoughts in the comments section. Leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on post notifications so that you'll be notified whenever we drop our next videos. Also, share this video to someone who might be interested. Thank you so much for watching.